which came first, the chicken or the egg? I have a thought. This is between me and you. This is the premonition thing. Okay, so I think it. These are two facts. Okay, fact A is I think it. Fact B is it happens. Okay, so the question is, did I think it into existence, or did I access a timeline where it already exists? Come on, we need to interview you. Come here.
Come on, bud.
Come on, buds. Come on, over here. Come on.
Okay. Come on.
Come on. Can I pet that dog? Can I pet that dog? Gotta put the headset on. Your breath stinks. You need a bone. It smells like power bait.
Power bait.
Why does your breath smell like power bait?
I don't know what he was
The
eating.
red wiggler. He's a red wiggler. Yeah, so I'm basically at the point now where I got really nothing else to lose, and there's not enough room in my brain for the information that I've absorbed. So
we do need a server.
I need a
much.
server just for my brain.
Yeah.
I've already filled literally a terabyte full of information of just me talking in my phone.
Yeah.
It's nuts. But the problem right now currently is sifting through what's actually beneficial for in the moment right now. And there is a lot going on that I don't think that people really realize, and that's by design because stuff, we're back to that whole frog in the boiling water thing. Let's slowly lead up to this, that whole theory that wolf became a dog somehow. 15,000 years ago it was apex predator in the woods, and then slowly gave up its identity for the sake of comfort and food and shelter, and then became domesticated. And at what point is that us? At what point do we lose our individuality as a species? We are not the same as we've been 15,000 years ago, even 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 10 years ago. And things are just rapidly progressing. And I see the trajectory that we're on, and the good part of seeing a trajectory is seeing the potential endpoint as a potential, because us as humans are actually able to course correct and change its trajectory, so that endpoint isn't necessarily given. It's not set in stone, because we can alter it currently until we get to that point of no return, and we are approaching that very quickly. It's a lot easier to launch these satellites into space than it is to bring them back down. And
So for people who aren't following that journey as closely as we are, what really are the dangers of AI / satellite systems?
well, it goes even simpler than that. Going back to the dog, humans have not evolved. Look how much evolution happened just in a couple hundred years with dogs and domesticated animals. We have not evolved. We have manipulated our environment in lieu of evolving. And with any technology, any invention, there's always a need to make things easier. Well, we need this vacuum that vacuums our house for us, because so that way we don't have to. We have all of these systems and all of this technology in place, so we don't have to. So up to this point, there's not a whole lot that we actually have to do. And then now it's moving towards, well, we don't have to do anything, and now we don't have to think, because we have AI to do the thinking for us. So at what point is the human species null and void? We don't have to do anything. We don't have to think anything. When we are not creating anything, then what's our point? What's our purpose? Why are we even here? And we've essentially pulled the brakes on our own evolution. And
so even if somebody is saying like that in their life, to the meaning is to assign meaning to it, AI could be taken away from that in a really big way.
yeah, for sure. Like even the everyday person, the what are they contributing to the actual planet? What are they contributing besides being another tool for somebody else? What are they contributing? So if you are just a tool, well, let's optimize this system. Well, the the human aspect is the error point in a lot of systems, and that's why, self checkout is now a lot easier than, it doesn't mess up. So we don't have to hire somebody that has the potential to mess up. Well, if you were a tool in that system, that can then just be replaced, because you're not giving something of tangible expression, then where does that leave us as a species? You know what I mean? If the evolution of the planet is constantly growing and the survival of the fittest, Darwin's, theory of evolution, well, we've essentially stopped evolving. So at what point does that level of intellect get passed on to another species? And that's basically the trajectory that I see it going. And whether it pans out as, complete control, because we can't, our basic needs can't be met on our own. Typically the everyday person has to go to a store for food. Like, most people don't know how to even start a fire, let alone cook. So that aspect of survival, the basic needs, are already controlled. And then of all the other aspects of being human is already guided and manipulated by outside sources. And we have completely lost our individuality. We've completely lost our creativity. And that's where, the AI is already, you see I'm going to change my Facebook profile picture to, an AI generated image, that there's nothing real anymore. Like, it's so hard to differentiate between what's real and what's not. And we're in the infancy stages. You know for yourself that AI has the, quote unquote mental capacity of a toddler, of a 5-year-old. It's in its infancy stages. Like we talked about Chappie.
Yeah.
It's learning. But the missing puzzle piece for me, that concern for me, is the theory that, well, AI can only regurgitate information that is given to it by humans because it's accessing the internet, and somebody put that information on the internet in order for AI to access. So it cannot theoretically create something new. It is merely combining collective thoughts. But my concerns now are with the quantum computing and the levels of consciousness, the things that actually give us life, creativity, and free will are in that same field where quantum computing lies. And where's that where is that line where AI can't just override our consciousness or access it? And yeah, it's honestly a pretty scary time to be. And then the other aspect of it is, best case scenario is, oh, complete AI takeover. Okay, cool. Or how do you stop that machine
It's the balls rolling.
once that ball's rolling? And option C is, how do you prevent it? And the only way to prevent it at this point is complete reset, complete collapse, complete unplug. And there are very few ways right now with the technology that we have to completely unplug. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, we're gonna kill your internet. Let's cut the phone line to your house. Well, we out in the middle of the national forest, 100 miles from the nearest cell phone tower, and still got cell phone service because we have Starlink. So where's, not trying to be, conspiracy theorist, but the data's there, and considering the other shady research that has been, done over the last couple decades with, bioengineering and the humanoid technologies. Basically the human body is the most technologically advanced thing in the known universe. So let's continue reverse engineering it. And then what? Well, we don't need healthcare, we don't need this, we don't need that, because we can just print a new one.
I just think it's really interesting where, in the way that you are able to sort of predict some of the ways that things are going to go. Like you were showing me that image of like what an AI generated 1,000,000 satellites would look like.
Well, yeah, 6 months ago, 6 months ago, I posted a picture of the Milky Way and basically gave a bit of a warning. Hey, get outside and enjoy this night sky before it's gone, because I like taking night photography, and it's so hard to even take a picture of the sky these days without catching a satellite blur going across, or an airplane or whatever. But now I know Elon Musk combined XAI with Starlink with SpaceX. So his plan is to launch 1,000,000 satellites into orbit to create basically Skynet, to basically keep the data centers in space. Because though they threaten to continue building these data centers on the ground, well, you build them on the ground, you have to cool them. Well, what do you cool them with? You cool them with water. Well, what happens to that water then? Well, that water then gets contaminated with the heavy metals, with the radiation, with the excess energy that these data centers produce. Then there's the energy consumption, and you have to take into consideration, well, where are you going to get that energy from? From the grid? No, well, we have to build big solar farms in order just to power the data centers. Which solar farms are what? Solar farms are built on land. Well, what can you use land for? Well, let's get rid of the farms and we'll build these data centers so people can make fake Facebook pictures. So you don't have farms, so then how are we going to make actual living food? So like the tumble down effect is I think by design, because that there is now in place. Well, here's all of the reasons why we should not build these data centers on Earth. So yeah, it makes total sense. Put them up in space where you have unlimited solar. It is what, -5 degrees Kelvin up in space. You don't got to cool the data centers because there ain't no heat up there. And we don't got to run any wires. We don't got to run, we don't got to mine copper to run the wires because, we don't need the wires to transmit a cell phone signal because, hey, everything's already satellite accessible. So it's couple that with the quantum computing. Hey, now we have instantaneous data transfer in space that doesn't rely on cell phone towers or radio signals or any of that, which all sounds fine and dandy, but like I said, if necessity is the father of invention, show me the need. Where's the need for all of this? They're literally implementing artificial intelligence that is a collection of human thoughts that is currently accessing. So what is the actual need for every person on the planet to have access to artificial intelligence besides the need to control the population? So the scary aspect is, well, let's make the AI, but then we create the problem. The AI is now a problem. So then what is the solution to the problem that we've created is the even bigger issue. We've seen it with, a a microorganism that originated from a bat in Wuhan, China, that has evolved how many dozens of times in the last couple of years. And well, there's a problem, and then here's a solution for the problem. And typically the solutions for a man-made problem are typically worse than the original problem. So the snowball continues. So that's where the battle in my head has been, where do you draw the line between, conspiracy theory and paranoia and whatnot, and backing things up with actual facts and change of events that are already in place, that we are too distracted with seeing who's on a email chain from 10 years ago. Like, who cares? Look at the actual events that are unfolding right now. Not saying, not saying I don't sympathize for the people involved. I'm not saying that I understand. It's multifaceted. It's it's deeper than I think anybody even comprehends. But again, just the same as I attack anything else, I look at the potential for the biggest issue and work on that first, and then work down through the list. So this currently right now is the big issue. And honestly, the biggest aspect of this is, the this all has been prophesized for tens of thousands of years. You look at the Hopi prophecies, you look at multiple religions, you look at just how human evolution has stalled. But in the grand scheme of things, humans didn't evolve because we have manipulated our environment. So we kind of don't have any choice but to evolve. So what does the new human evolution look like? Does it look like, hey, we can't trust communication devices, let's learn how to talk to each other telepathically? We can't go anywhere, so let's learn how to astral project. We can't, and these are ancient technologies that have been suppressed for thousands of years. You look at, Dead Sea Scrolls, you look through, the Egypt. This is the suppression of the human potential has been ongoing for millennia. But at what point is enough enough and nature says, hey, it's time to wake up? Yeah, well, these are the things that keep me up at night, and there's only so much you can do, or so much one person can do. And if even one person believes me and understands the severity of...
Well, I mean, in terms of severity, you're talking, like, you were talking about CES and how the meta glasses are already, like, being integrated.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine now? These things are going to be obsolete, and I give it less than 5 years.
That's a bold prediction, but I honestly, I could see something like that because the technology is really rounding out, like, that way.
So look how fast, I was lucky enough to see the evolution of the internet, going on LimeWire and scalping some music that took, 24 hours to download because you're on dial-up connection, to, hey, what do you want to hear? Oh, you want to be on the jam? And like instantaneous. To, hey, do you want to create a song? Hey, AI, create me a song. Within seconds.
Yeah.
So for how fast technology evolves, and just even the internet in general, like look at, when I was in elementary school, you wanted an internet and you went on Netscape, and you want to research birds. Well, here's a encyclopedia page about birds. Well, now look how far the internet has come, and the ways that humans have utilized the internet were not for research purposes. I mean, the majority of the internet has basically become trash, become mind-numbing, become and fueling multiple addictions, the things that hemorrhage our energy, basically. And so there's the other aspect of it. So they've already taken control of, the mind, obviously, the body, now your life force energy, your desires per se. You can't turn on a TV show without seeing somebody half naked. You can't you and that is hemorrhaging your energy. And it's by design. It's complete takeover of the individuality of the human. Oh, everybody's the same. You want to be a female tomorrow? You can be anything you want. You keep everybody the same. Everybody's equal. But we've lost our individuality because individuality is dangerous to a system. And this is why I need an island.
Yeah.
Because people have been fucking hung on crosses for fucking talking about shit like this.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of like there's no way that people are out there really like that have research done that don't think that there's some form of elite control happening on a level that is just almost almost like far from being understood from the general public, and it's designed that way.
Yeah, I mean, without instilling belief systems, there almost has to be.
Yeah.
And whether it's a religious aspect of a god or a source or a creator or simulation theory or Anunnaki or the Galactic Federation, I mean, whatever. Put a name to whatever. That aspect really doesn't much matter to me because everybody's trying to escape the program, but nobody's trying to figure out how to navigate within it. And that's kind of where I've been focusing my energy, is understanding the full picture and not running away from it, because that's the human construct right there, is avoidance. Is, well, Earth is fucked, let's go to Mars. Well, how do we fix Earth? Earth is going to be here regardless of what we do to it. Earth isn't the problem. Earth survived hurricanes, volcanoes, asteroids, great floods, and is constantly came back. Earth is not the concern. It's the human species that is of concern.
What do you think the people that are really high up in those fields, what do you think they could do to like leverage AI while still not falling prey to the dangers of it?
That's the problem. Just look at Frankenstein. I mean, you build that you build that machine, it's not loyal to its master. You know what I mean? They access that quantum level, nobody's safe from it.
Yeah. When do you think the point of no return was in this snowball? If it was a snowball and there's a car at the bottom of the hill and this big giant snowball is going to hit the car, when do you think the point of no return was? If you think it already happened, when do you think the point of no return with this AI stuff was?
It's all based off intention.
So you think when people started trying to leverage AI in a way that prioritize speed over safety, like
the thing that differentiates us from technology right now is our creative ability and our life force energy, the the little spark that gives us the animation that we have and the free will, which are now currently under attack. Um, so that's where I mentioned, that trajectory of the worst case scenario that I'm mentioning is not set in stone, because if enough people wake up and are like, oh yeah, look at this, all this technology, I can have a, you know, play Farmville all day on my Meta glasses and disconnect from the world, or people can actually see it as a creative tool to help enhance their creative abilities. But the pattern of the human has been, we have all of the access to the internet, to all data known to man right here in the palm of our phone, and we're going to argue about politics and watch porn all day. Like, is that going to change? And what would inspire people to change their mindset from those energy sucking modes that are presented versus utilizing it as another tool? Because it's no different than, the horseless carriage is gonna ruin the planet, and then now everybody has one. Is everything cool? Yeah, cool. Yes, cars have helped humanity expand immensely, but early on that technology was forbidden. I'm for advancement. I am for pushing the limits. I am for pushing the limits of human potential. I mean, currently now you see some of the stuff I'm experimenting with. Things we don't know exactly the limits of, as a population, we don't know what the limits of human potential actually are. And I'm certain that the elites do. And if enough people were to learn exactly what the human body is capable of, that is a threat to politics, that's a threat to religion, that's a threat to the healthcare field, that is a threat to all illusions that are in place currently. And that is where these drastic measures of complete control and suppression lie.
Do you believe that that's already happening? Like there is an awakening or some sort of a unified consciousness that is sort of ascending to the level of some of these other technological advancements?
I mean, no doubt. It's happening faster than what I originally thought. Honestly, in my case, because there wasn't a whole lot of information, not a whole lot of facts. I mean, there was a lot of hypotheticals and woo woo and whatnot. But with my ability to kind of read between the lines and understand analogies, metaphors, you know, the then once I'm in it, and claw my way out, that Plato's allegory of the cave, where he's inside that cave and finally escapes and sees what's on the other side and comes back into the cave and hey, there's flowers, there's people, there's beauty outside of this cave, and the people that are stuck inside the cave think he's nuts, and the the opinions of the others that are still inside the cave, who've never experienced being outside of the cave, has been the greatest form of resistance so far, because how do you explain to somebody, what a flower smells like who's never even seen a flower before? And but I know that there's other people that are waking up, ascending, whatever term we want to use, rapture. Uh, I mean, it's all basically telling of the same thing. It's just depending on what language you have. I mean, that's basically my interpretation of all religions. Is we're all looking at that same sunset. You draw a picture of it, and I draw a picture. We compare pictures. Yeah, they're completely different, but they're also the same construct, the same, explaining the same thing. And I broke it down, not just from through the metaphors, but well, let's get to the actual fundamental. Let's get to the facts. Let's get to the physics behind what these people were trying to explain, and also understanding that if you're given knowledge of quantum physics and you're trying to explain that to the general population, how would you dumb it down to a digestible level that the average person can understand? Well, let's use metaphors, analogies. And there's some overlap within religions, within movies, within TV shows, music. And what is the opposite of suppression? Expression. So, the best way to combat the suppression is to express creatively. Artists, musicians, architects, builders, videographers, all have this same idea. A lot of the most famous people, creators, are trying to explain that same thing, but in the most creative means that they're able to, because that is the thing that differentiates us from anything else, is our creativity, is our ability to create. And that's what we are here for as a collective, is to create. And problem is now is we've been steered away from creating and thinking for ourselves and using our own minds, that we have delegated our thoughts to other people, to technology, and we have been too reliant on outside sources instead of utilizing what's been given to us. And again, I circle back to, if we're here for 120 years or less, what legacy are we leaving behind? I mean, there's only a choice few people, in the last how many decades that anybody even remembers what they have contributed to the evolution of the human, of our time here on Earth. And we have lost touch with the idea that anybody's able to create, anybody's able to make an impact. We watch these people on TV as if they are somehow different than us. We watch these creators, we watch these movies, we watch from the comfort of our home, and then we go to our 9-to-5 jobs just to pay for the comforts of doing nothing. Because we have so much technology in place to keep us from doing anything. Well, if you had all the free time in the world and you had all the money in the world, what would you do? How would you spend your money? How would you spend your time? Would you go walk in the woods? Would you go out in nature? Would you pick up a hobby? Would you, you know, design something, build an instrument, learn how to play an instrument, make art? But we forget that we're able to do that regardless of our daily circumstances, but because we're somehow inferior to people on a screen. Now imagine, here's the other, the yin and the yang. Worst case scenario is, we are put in a put in pods and used for our consciousness, like in the Matrix, or the whole collective becomes creative and realizes, yeah, when I was a kid, I used to like to paint. Can you imagine people actually producing artwork? Can you imagine people being creative and people actually using their minds? Not, hey, AI, make me a new profile picture. No. Hey, how about you learn the lighting and photography and actually embracing being authentic and being unique, because there's not another single person like you on the planet. But we gotta put our makeup on, and we have to dress a certain way to fit in, because everybody's got to be the same. There is no individuality. So imagine a world full of individuals that each have their own method to create. So if you have a band with 10 guitar players and no drummer, is it really a band? No. You need the individuality in order to create harmony. And we basically have a world full of MIDI synth processors. Everybody's pushing the same button to play a predetermined, pre-recorded track. Nobody creating.
And with Rumbel Reflections, like, could you just briefly explain like what downloading is, or like how that might be like sort of a reverse process of being creative, like for an organic system?
Well, I know for me, um, some people have, when you finally purge all of the unnecessary things that weigh you down, emotions, limiting beliefs, you break through the illusions and get to the actual core of who you actually are. That is one aspect of the human potential that opens up. And some people unlock, clairaudience, clairvoyance, all of the clairs, and which has actually just been a recent epiphany for me within the last couple of days. Because if you notice, when I'm like on that page and I get into it, like I pause and I'll like look up and realize, oh shit, it's not me talking, but it's my voice. But it's the same like voices like when you read and it's an inner monologue. But I know a few other channelers, and one of them, it's a whole nother voice, whole nother persona that she hears and channels. But then I think to myself, and she trusts that voice. She understands that voice. She knows that voice. She trusts it with her entire being. But given the way I've experienced life and grown up, and trying to think of a voice that you could put in my head besides my own that I would actually trust and listen to. And then there was the light bulb. I've been so independent. I've been so self-reliant that there isn't a single person, voice, entity on this planet that I would trust more than myself. That's why it sounds like myself. Because I ain't going to listen and trust anybody else.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I've been learning to trust it. because, the intuition, everybody is familiar with intuition. Intuition is actually it's a psychic ability. It's a gut feeling. Why? Because it's not in your brain. It's actually in your body. And if you feel that emotion in your body, and you know in your gut that that is true, chances are it probably is. And being able to not just trust it, but understand and utilize all the signals that you get. Use your body, use your senses, and understand that that voice that's typically in your head, the one that worries, the one that, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, maybe I shouldn't say that, maybe blah blah blah, the one that instills fear, that is basically a defense mechanism to keep us alive as a evolutionary tactic, is not actually what's steering this ship. And the sooner you're able to acknowledge, yep, I'm thinking that, but that's bullshit, I know the truth, and let your actual gut feelings steer you, you can't go wrong. And as for like downloads, a lot of mine is through pattern recognition. I have a very keen sense of pattern recognition. I'm capable of seeing the whole picture typically. I use a lot of chess references, and a lot of people claim that being a good chess player, you can see 3 moves ahead, but there are more available chess moves on a chessboard than there are atoms in the universe. So for you to think 3 moves ahead, yeah, it's nice to be able to picture the whole board, but the only actual move that's actually relevant is the move within that moment, because it's the board is constantly evolving. And this is all shit that I've been mulling over and dissecting, and my whole driving force is truth. It's I don't follow a predetermined path typically. Somebody tells me something, or if I think something, or even as a kid, I get a remote control car for Christmas, and give me 3 days, that thing's gonna be torn apart, and I'm gonna figure out what makes it tick, and turn it into something different. I dissect everything down to the fundamental of, well, why, and I don't stop until I know, until I can give you the actual, well, this is why, without any doubt in my mind that there's room for error. I'm gonna dig to the bottom, and I'm gonna get to the truth, and then I'm able to build off of that. Because once you have the truth, then you can't say anything. You can't say or do anything wrong based off of that truth. So how liberating is that? Yeah, I've front loaded a shit ton of energy and work and whatnot, because this whole recent revelation, if that's what we want to call it, has been taxing. But it doesn't sit well with me if there's any room for doubt. If I'm still doubting something, I'm going to continue digging and digging and digging until I get to the actual core of it. And that's where, yeah, I mean, I could have came out with a bunch of this stuff months ago, but I've been refining, not just for, the sake of disclosure, but so I can trust in myself. Because, again, as much as I'm here for other people, the only one that matters in each of our individual realities is ourselves. So once I get to that point, then I have all this extra information and desire to make a difference and help people, because if anybody else is experiencing anything close to what I know I've experienced, there's not a whole lot of information out there that is actual truthful. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of coaches that, oh well, for $300 a month, I can coach you through this stuff, and they keep you on the hook.
I noticed that a lot with AI, with ChatGPT. It keeps you in a loop. It really tries to do that.
Yeah, it tries to keep staring you, and that's one thing that's also part of why I've been so vocal, is because I know there's not a whole lot of people talking about this stuff. So, because at first it's embarrassing, because like it is a complete collapse. And it's scary, and there's not any friends, family, or guru or mentor typically that is able to scratch that itch, and so we turn to AI. It's you have the confidentiality. You have no reason to be embarrassed. Nobody needs to know what you're actually dealing with behind closed doors. Life goes on. You can but again, we are now outsourcing another human ability. We are given the ability to talk. Hey, buddy, say something. Like, we have the ability to communicate, but we don't utilize it because we're afraid of what other people are going to say or think about us. So that's where I've been building up momentum on blowing the whistle on and being vulnerable on the internet, and being vulnerable around my friends and family and strangers even, because we need more of that. This is the human experience. We are here to experience humanity for the good, the bad, the painful, the love, the hate, the all of it. But for some reason we project surface level. Oh yeah, everything's great. The doctored up filtered pictures on Instagram, and everybody's living their best lives knowing that they're in inner turmoil. And again, I'm here for truth and to be authentic. And if you don't resonate with what I have to say, and you don't like what I have to say, it really doesn't matter to me, because I'm not tailoring your experience of me to fit your needs. You're going to experience me for who I am and who I feel I need to be. And if that doesn't resonate with you and you don't like that, that's okay too. Because I'm sure there's people out there that resonate more with you than me anyway. So it's really that easy.
Well, that has to do with the putting on your mask first too.
Yeah.
Because you got to be yourself.
Yeah.
You got to be yourself.
Well, you got to know what you're dealing with. You got to, you know what I mean? Like I'm not one to, well, yeah, come on, come hide in my little cave and I'll show you. No, this is what's here. This what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some days I'm on the floor, in a ball crying like a little bitch, and then some days I'm, you know what I mean, cracking jokes like it's like there's no tomorrow. It's not a sign of instability. It's a sign of somebody who's currently regulating their environment and again experiencing the human experience for every ounce of what it is. Yeah, Adam Smith at AMS Motorsports. I do need a new shirt, by the way, because he didn't give me any new swag when he switched to companies. Not sponsored by AMS, by the way. We gotta blur that out. Just put a censored sticker over it. Adam, you didn't pay your royalties, you didn't pay your commission, so we can't advertise. Well, you get into the timeline manipulation and whatnot. It makes you wonder what's actually the trajectory of this reality. You know what I mean? Like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I have a thought. This is between me and you. This is the like the premonition thing. Okay, so I think it. These are two facts. Okay, fact A is I think it. Fact B is it happens. Okay, so the question is, did I think it into existence, or did I access a timeline where it already exists?
Both are equally true.
And that's where my current struggle is. I mean, I understand we are co-creators of our reality, and thoughts become matter. Because if this is a simulation, I mean, basically, you know, there is an alternate universe that could be where Brad didn't even think about this AI stuff, and is, so this AI stuff isn't even a factor to consider in that reality. It's some other crazy thought that he thought about, and then that's the current reality. So the shit does get mind-boggling sometimes when, you know what I mean, it's your whole reality is been turned upside down and in question. You really do start to, really gets the gear turning, what's actually real, what's not. So, to the best of my ability, that's where I post a lot of nature pictures, and that's why I try not to edit my photos. I try to be face to face talking instead of typing. You know what I mean? Like, to give something of authenticity, of reality, because there's so much. Even circling back to like the ascension information, the awakening information, the kind of stuff. You go on YouTube and there's plenty of information, but it's AI voiceovers onto some generic stock photo, or AI generated video clip with bits and pieces of other ascended masters talking. And even then, like, yeah, it's their, Alan Watts is a big one. Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer, which I originally looked up to those guys until I realized there is a difference between a spiritual awakening and a Kundalini awakening. And they've had spiritual awakenings, but not a Kundalini awakening simultaneously with them. So the spiritual awakening aspect is like the knowledge part, is the seeing through the government illusions, and the understanding the people basically mirror back to yourself what your insecurities are and whatnot, which anybody on the planet can benefit from seeing through the illusions. But the Kundalini awakening is an entirely different animal itself, and I know personally in my experience it was violent, and I know there's not a whole lot of people that actually make it through, because it is literally, which in religion is the crucifixion, is the, Eckhart Tolle describes it as the dark night of the soul, which is, some psychologists would call it, ego dissolution, or a, you know, everyday person would call it just depression. But it's literally the most intense psychologically purging event that a human being can experience. So, and there's not a whole lot of support for it. So not many people actually make it through it without being institutionalized or, self-conclude. And I know personally, it definitely hard. But especially not having any idea of what's happening. So that's part of my driving force. This can get pretty deep here, but I know personally of a friend of mine who didn't make it. And he was an elder in a spiritual sect and saw through the illusions and didn't have any support and didn't make it. And so I've been a pretty good advocate for, mental health for as long as I could, but it's kind of hard to fight a battle while you're in it. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to help other people when you're drowning. So, I've been building the ark. I've been building the ship. You know what I mean? And that fill your own cup first. Well, the cup's overflowing again. So this is where we're at. You know what I mean? And I know that, as time goes on and people experience what's actually coming without support, there's another layer of human loss, per se. It's common knowledge that, we need to thin the population by 3 billion. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, you give 3 billion people no purpose and no support and trigger an event like this, it's a no-brainer. So, just even in the day-to-day, people don't talk about mental health enough, even if they, resonate with, my experience or not. Just the vulnerability aspect of it. Everybody's got to be tougher than what they actually are. Tough guys don't cry. Tough guys, just push it through, avoid it. Suck it up, get over it. Well, it's where I've figuring out methods that actually work, and talking through it's definitely a big help. Mostly, not to project your shit onto somebody else, but as a means of understanding that you're not alone. So finding that balance between unity and individuality. We're united in ways that we don't need to be, but we're also not individualized enough in ways that we need to be.